Hey everyone, welcome to Courtside Conversations. My name's Emile, founder and owner of Little Boomers Basketball, and it's a pleasure to be your host today. Wherever you're watching today's episode, I hope you're having a booming day, and yes, the pun is intended. My journey to entrepreneurship started on May 1st, 2018 when I launched my first basketball program with 9 kids enrolled. Today, thousands of kids across Australia are thriving in our programs, all thanks to the commitment and passion of our incredible franchisees. This podcast is here to give you real, straightforward, no BS insights into business, entrepreneurship, and what it's like to own a franchise. Without further ado, let's get into today's episode. Are you guaranteed success as a franchise owner? The hard truth. Wow, what a question this is. This question in itself is probably the source of all legal battles that end in the court system. Hey, you promised me I was going to turn over $300,000. I'm in the negative still and it's been a year. You promised me I was going to turn over $500,000. Let's debunk this question in today's podcast. I want to start off by saying this interesting story that happened to me 2 weeks ago. We flew in a gentleman down here to New South Wales. He's interested in franchise in Victoria. We met up at head office. His name is Joaquin, very nice guy. And one of the questions I asked him when he was at head office is, why are you choosing Little Boomers Basketball and not another competitor? It's a question I'd like to ask to see what our point of difference is. And he said to me, Emile, I was speaking to another competitor. I won't say who this provider was, but they were a direct competitor with us. And when I spoke to the founder during our discovery call, he promised me that I was going to turn over $100,000 in my first year, which didn't sound right. But when I'm speaking to you, and this is in his words, when I'm speaking to you, you're very honest and transparent about the hard work that's required in this business, and what you put in is what you put out. And he felt like there was a little bit more trust with me because I wasn't misleading him just to get the sale of the business. And that was a very interesting story, because when I see like a franchisor say, hey, if you come into the business, I'm going to promise you $200,000, that absolutely scares me, because it's really completely out of my control. How much time a franchisee invests in their business is totally out of my control. We've got the systems, we've got the brand, we've got the marketing, but we can't pick up the phone for you. That's up to you. So for me to put a guarantee there, not knowing if you're going to do that or not, really puts me at risk, and it also potentially might set you up for failure. So it was an interesting story that happened. And if we look back at recent history, we'll look back at COVID-19, for example. Were you guaranteed a job during COVID-19? In fact, there was a lot of workers, salary paid workers, that thought they have a guaranteed source of income. Nothing's going to happen to me. I've had my job for the 5 years. I've got such a good boss. And what happened to these people? A lot of them were made redundant. So I think it's safe to say that in this world that we live in 2025, nothing is guaranteed. I'm not guaranteed business tomorrow. You're not guaranteed a job tomorrow. Nothing is guaranteed. And I'm a big fan of Tony Robbins. He talks about this craving that human has for certainty. We always crave certainty because it puts us at ease when something is certain. And the reality is, if you're coming into a business, if you're experiencing any form of life, nothing is certain. There's nothing certain in this world, and we need to be okay with that uncertainty. It's what gives us flavor. Can you imagine if every single minute of your day you knew what was going to happen? It would be boring. You'd be like, boring, let's end it. So humans crave certainty, and that's where this comes from. So if your success as a franchise isn't guaranteed, what are the questions that we should be asking? There's actually one thing that is guaranteed, and I'll tell you what it is guaranteed. Don't trademark this, but this is what is guaranteed. If you don't do nothing, nothing changes. I can't tell you how many times I'll be speaking to somebody on the phone interested in franchising. They're bored of their corporate job. They hate their corporate job. They've got excitement to starting a new business in the kids industry, right? They want to make a change, but they don't do anything. They don't take that next step. They don't research. And that's the only thing that's really guaranteed. If you do nothing, nothing will change. And that's a guarantee. So, okay, Emile, well, if I'm not guaranteed success as a franchise owner, if I'm speaking to a company I'm interested in franchising, what questions should I be asking? Well, here are the questions that I'll be asking if I was in your shoes. And guys, you need to remember that when you're speaking to a company and you're interested in franchising, you've got to show commitment from your end. I'll speak to somebody for the first time and the first question, hey, what's the profitability? What's the return on investment? Can I get a P&L statement? It's like, hold on. Imagine if we're giving all that information out to everybody that we're speaking to on the first point of phone call. Imagine we're giving all that out, right? There's a lot of private information here. So there's got to be commitment of your end. You got to sign an NDA, a non-disclosure agreement. You got to show up to a phone call, show up to a webinar, come down to head office. There's got to be interest from your end first, commitment from your end before we start, revealing some of the answers to these questions. But let's talk about what your cheat sheet looks like, saying that you're interested in franchising. First question you want to ask is, what's the average revenue per franchisee and how long does it take to break even? Now, there's no crystal ball, guys, on this. Just ask for averages. It's always best that you get for averages. So what is the average revenue per franchisee and how long does it take to break even? Second question you want to ask is, what's the average amount of time each franchisee spends on their business? Hey, just quickly, if you're enjoying today's episode, it will mean the world to me if you can leave a positive review or share it with a friend that may benefit from this. I've also put some bonus resources in the description, including a real franchise case study that you can download under our Franchise Success Blueprint. Hope you find it useful. Enjoy the rest of the episode and rock on. Adios. This is really important because every business has different time commitments, and this might vary depending on what you're looking for. I'll give you an example of a cafe franchise versus Little Boomers franchise. A cafe franchise might be a full-time commitment, early rise, 4:30 a.m., finish at 4 p.m., Monday to Saturday, Sundays off. There's a huge amount of time investment for a cafe franchise. When you compare that to our franchise, we're more of a lifestyle franchise. Classes happen in the afternoon after 4 p.m. to about 7. We have weekend morning classes and your days are freed up during the day for you to do admin work, to call schools and to call daycare. So we advocate a lifestyle business. There is a time requirement, but it's a good lifestyle business, especially if you have family, kids, and you need that time free during the day. So you got to ask, what's the average amount of time each franchisee spends on their business? Now, this next question is a game changer, and I never see or hear anybody ask this question when they're interested in franchising. What do your high performers do differently than your average to low performers? This is powerful, guys. In any franchise network, you're going to have high-performing franchisees that are absolutely killing it revenue-wise, average performers and low performers. Now, it's no luck that the high performers are high performing. They didn't get gifted an area. Maybe they had a great location and maybe contributed a very small amount to their success, but they are doing something on a day-to-day basis that's producing them that amount of revenue. So you want to ask, what are the daily habits? What are the high performers doing on a day-to-day basis so that when you come into the network, you can model that behavior and you don't have to wait 2 years or figure out what to do. Just ask, what are the high performers doing differently? And we know in our network that the high performers are marketing, always getting back to parents' inquiries within an hour, are continuously opening up new locations and new classes, are contacting parents on their wait list, are going by the philosophy speed to lead. There are characteristic traits that our high performers are doing. You want to find out what are those traits. Next question you want to ask yourself is, what seasonality factors may affect the business, right? Every business does tend to have a degree of seasonality factors. In our industry, kids sports, for example, we find that our slowest enrollment period is term 4 and term 1, because in term 4, parents are going on holidays. They're not thinking about enrolling for term 1. And in term 1, they're so slow to get back to it. You know, you got back to school rush in January, holidays are just finishing, parents are getting their schedule in routine. So we find those terms to be the slowest enrollment periods, and term 2 and 3 are the biggest enrollment periods. So you want to ask yourself, whatever industry you're looking at investing in, what are the seasonality factors that may affect the business? Final question that you need to ask yourself is, speak to franchisees. Actually take the time and effort to speak to various franchisees in a network. Ask them, what challenges do they face day to day? And more importantly, how has support been from head office? This is a big one, guys. A lot of franchise networks say, we offer support 24/7. This is before the agreement is signed, right? We offer support. We'll get you this. We're going to do this for you. They sign the agreement. 6 months later, the franchisee is like, man, I thought I was going to get all this support. What happened? They got me in the door, paid my investment. I don't hear from them anymore. So speak to franchisees and ask them, how has support been from head office? We actually make this mandatory as part of our franchise recruitment process, every single prospect interested in franchising must have a one-on-one phone discussion with a franchisee. And we make this mandatory because we want you speaking to somebody that is in your shoes doing the day-to-day grind. And this is mandatory for us. And by the way, guys, if the franchisor don't want you chatting to franchisees, just one word, run. R-U-N, run. Because they're obviously hiding something. They don't want you to know something. Run the other way if they don't let you talk to franchisees. That's a real easy litmus test. So what's the verdict? The verdict is, number one, nothing's guaranteed in life. COVID-19 taught this lesson very well. Nothing's guaranteed in life other than you remaining the same if you don't change or do anything. So if you're sick of your job, if you want to get into business, if you want to own your own business, own your own investment, follow your passion, guys. If you don't do nothing and you stay in your current job, please don't expect anything. Nothing's going to happen. The world doesn't work like that. The world gives to those that take action. So that's the first thing. Second thing, ask purpose intent questions. If you're interested in a franchise, ask purpose intent questions. Don't just call up and say, when can I make my money back? Am I guaranteed this? I get so many people, they come with zero preparation to the phone call and they just want to look for a shortcut. How much money am I going to make, right? Do your research. Come prepared with purpose intent questions like I mentioned in the above. Finally, don't be lazy. Speak to franchisees. Pick franchisees' brain. Ask them questions to figure out what the day-to-day challenges are of the business. Guys, with that being said, that concludes our episode today. Are you guaranteed success as a franchise owner? In my next episode, I'm going to talk about something that people don't understand in business or in franchising, which is franchise royalties, what they are and what you need to know about franchise royalties. Thank you for tuning in. See you in the next episode.